Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about different ways to process a Molap tabular cube. Before we go into those topics, we quickly go back to our previous videos. One is the my first tabular cube, other one is my first multidimensional cube. So in both videos, we only talked about at high level how to process your dimensions and partitions and measure groups in the cube. So these both videos are available under the playlist. One is at under the SSIS tabular, other one is at SSIS MOLAB cube. So in case if you would like to know that how you can create the both cubes, the tabular cube as well as the multidimensional cube, please go through these videos. They are under my playlist. Now coming to the topic, so the ways to process a MOLAB cube and tabular cube. So in real time, after we develop the things, right? So we create dimension and partitions, measure groups, and everything, and then we deploy to the cube. Usually we do the process queue manually in the first or second time, but on day-to-day basis, if you get the fresh data and your business expectations to process the data on regular basis, right? Those scenarios you need to have a different kind of workflows, right? So those workflows you can build using the many tools. Like there are a lot of tools that you can use it and build these workflows. But in my project, I use these four workflows to process my SCAS and MOLAB cube as well as the tabular cube. So now let's go into the quick summary of these four options, and then later I'll go to the detailed way of explanation for each process. I mean, each way that we use it in our project. So the first option is SSIS packages. Most of you know that we can use the SQL Server Integration Service packages. By creating those packages, we can control the workflows, and by adding like a processing dimension, processing measure group, dynamically process the partitions, or all those workflows you can build in the SSIS packages. And those SSIS packages you can directly call in the SQL agent job. uh, so that is the one option. Second option is directly you can use the SQL agent job to schedule your jobs. So in SQL agent job, we use the XML code to process the dimensions and partitions and measure groups. That's how the SQL agent job works. And the third option is the PowerShell scripting. So PowerShell scripting also we can use to connect to the cube and process the dimension and process the measure group. In fact, you can do the deployment of your cube using the PowerShell scripting. That is also there. But the deployment of the cube using the PowerShell, I'm not going to cover. We're going to cover only the how to process the tabular cube and multidimensional cube using the PowerShell. And the fourth option is the Azure Automation, where we use the runbooks to process the data of Azure analysis service. So Azure Automation is only works based on the Azure AS, which is nothing but tabular cube, because Azure AS won't support the MOLAB cube. So still MOLAB cube is on-premises tool where the business need to go with infrastructure as a service model. But whereas the Azure AS, the business can go with either infrastructure as a service or platform as a service in the cloud environment. So that's about Azure Automation Runbook. So whenever you go with platform as a service, we use the tabular cube. That's the one we deployed to the Azure cloud. Once we deploy it to the Azure cloud, then we need to create a workflows to process the data. So that's the data. So that's the way we use the runbooks. So these runbooks will run based on the PowerShell scripting. So I'm not able to provide any you know uh, working session on Azure Automation because of whatever I'm using it presently in my project. That is the enterprise version, right? I cannot share it, but I can give some screenshots how it looks like in the Azure Automation, like a runbook and all. So that's about these four ways to process the cube. Now let's get into the each one of the tool, how it will help to process our data. So the first tool is SSIS packages. SSIS package is, it is one of the ETL tool where we can use a lot of extraction, transformation, and load the data. Whatever we transform the data, we load it to the heterogeneous sources or heterogeneous destinations. Okay, so basically the SSIS will be using to transform the data. It will perform the extract, transform, load operation. So now I've opened the Visual Studio 2019, and I'm going to create a new SSIS package project to uh, process the to create the workflows for to process the multidimensional cube as well as the tabular cube. So here first I create one project, which is select the integration service project. I clicked it, select it, and click next. I don't change any path, so I give the same everything as a default. But in your scenario, if you want, you can give your own name. So say SQ, so I'll give it anyway. So create. Now the solution is created in my local. Right. So the solution is created and project is created. You can see here the project. I just quickly check properties of my project just to make sure it selected latest details. 20 target version will be 2019 because I'm using 2019. Build version deployment, I think we are good. But mine is not 64-bit SSIS. It's so I changed this run 64-bit runtime is false. Okay, so then click yes and then click OK. I'm good. So I can go ahead and start creating the package. So in the first package, we talk about how to process Molap queue. So, and then, so what I do here, we need to open the toolbox. Within here, we'll have the separate dedicated task and dedicated data flow tasks to process the queue. So the first one is the analysis service process task. So this analysis service process task will actually help you to process your entire you know objects and everything. So now I'm going to create the click new because I need to build a connection, right? So I click new and I select default as local host. And then in your scenario, if you want to change your give a server name instead of localhost, and you can give integrated security, and then you can choose the cube that you want to process. So I'm going to use my retail cube to process. Then click on test connection. Once a connection is succeeded, then you click OK. So then click OK, and then once it's created, now it's a object list will be enabled in the below. So now I'm going to click on add. So that's where you'll see your list of dimensions, list of measures, partitions, or measure groups in your existed cube solution. In this scenario, I want to select all dimension. In fact, if you want to process entire cube, you can simply click on retail cube and then click OK. So it will process full of your entire cube. Okay, and if you don't want to process full and you want to process default, that means if the cube is already processed and if the indexes are outdated, what it will do, process default will only create the indexes because there is no data change compared to the last process and the current process. When you select the process default, the SSIS engine has the inbuilt intelligence to identify what is the state of each measure, whether it's required to do the full process or not. So that way it will check and it will do the necessary operation. So if it is required to process full, yes, it's going to process full. Otherwise, it will create only the process indexes. But process full option is actually so whether the data is not up to date or compared to the last refresh versus current process, still it will go processful irrespective of any state. And process clear is it will just clear the data from the cube. The cube will be, it will make it like empty. Those are the three options. However, if you want to instead of processing, you're not interested to process entire retail cube and you want to select only the dimensions related to particular measure group. Let's say you have a fact sales and fact orders and fact shipments. Let's say you have three measure groups. Out of three measure groups, and if you want to process only fact sales, then you can select fact sales measure group. In case within that fact sales group, again, if you have many partitions and out of all the partition, if you want to process only specific partition, please select those specific partitions, then you can process the queue at measure group level. In my scenario, I choose this partition alone to process it. Along with the measure group, you also need to select the dimensions, which are the dimensions are depending. So the dependent dimensions related to the fact sales, you need to process it. Otherwise, what will happen? You will get foreign key, primary key valuation, and the cube process will fail. To avoid that failure, you need to always select the dimensions are related to the fact sales where you expect new keys whenever you process the latest data, right? So that time, if you are expecting any new primary keys, those dimensions alone, you can select it. In my scenario, I select all the dimensions just to make sure my cube is not failing. So I selected 6 dimensions which are related to my fact sales. Now I click OK. So now you can see here for dimensions alone, you will get process update. For measure group, you will get the process full. In fact, since you selected measure group or partitions, it will allow you to give more option. So along with process default and process full, you will get the process data. So basically, process data is it won't create any index. It will just reprocess the data. That's all. So if you want to create index separately, you can create a process index. But usually, if you have a very high usage and where the customers can wait for some time, we can go for process data. In our scenario, so we have a 3 refreshes in a day. We do the refresh of 3 regions: APAC, EMEA, and America. So in our scenario, we use the process data because the data availability is very important for us in quick manner. So that's the reason we choose the process data. On weekly basis, we do the process of indexes. So during the weekend, nobody going to use it, right? So that's the where we use the process index. So now that's about process data. Process clear, we already talked about it. It will empty the data in your measure group. Process add is it will keep the existed data as it is and will append the latest data from your fact table to queue. That is the difference of each option. Now I select a process full anyway, so it's a training cube, right? So I choose that option. Now coming to the dimensions, so dimensions, it will be always process update. What it will check the existing data versus fresh data, and then it will process only the impacted records. Let's say you have a 500 rows which got processed previously. Now you got additional 10 records, which is nothing but now your dimension table is at the 510 records, right? So you don't need to reprocess entire 510 records. Instead of that, the process update, what it will do, it will only process those 10 records to your queue. If at all your data is not changing for other 500 records, if at all any data change for other 500 records, let's say you got new 10 records, and in your previous data set, out of 500 records, there are 100 records got updated with new mapping. So those scenarios, it will process only 110 records. Your previous updated records 100 plus your new records 10 records will get processed to your queue. That's about process update. But apart from these options, if you select any of other option in your ETL, what will happen, the queue will goes to the unprocessed state. Because if you're trying to process the dimension full, what will happen, so it will reprocess the entire data and rebuild the indexes for the dimension, right? Based on those indexes, whatever the measure groups are connected to that particular dimension, those measure groups also need to reprocess it, so that the indexes between the dimension, the dim product dimension, and then the dependent measure groups, their indexes both will be in sync. So that's the reason, apart from the process update or process default, if you touch process full, process data, process index won't be a problem, it won't take the cube down. But process full, process data, always careful when you're processing the dimension, because those two options are actually make your cube down if you don't know what exactly is happening. Okay, so always choose the process update. That's about processing the dimension. Now so there is one more option. I think yeah, we covered pretty much all these options in here. Now coming to settings, right? So there are the settings, the additional settings that you can make here. So if you select this process order, you will have two types of processing the order. One is the parallel, other one is the sequential. Usually if you select sequential, what will happen, it will process dimension by dimension, measure by measure, one after other. So if you have a powerful engine, a powerful server, like you have more CPUs, more RAM, instead of sequential, choose the parallel. So the parallel will help you to process your entire data parallel. And here, don't try to apply these parallel tasks, how many tasks you want to run it. Usually if you have a one CPU, so one CPU is actually can perform two parallel tasks at a time, right? So now let's say you have a 64 core system, 64 core CPU. What will happen, so you can process the 128 parallel operation at a time. So that's the, there is some calculation is there. But instead of you choosing this parameter, maximum parallel task parameter, let system decide how many parallel operation can happen based on the server availability. So don't change this parameter. Let the server decide how many it want. Okay, and then next option is dimension keys error. So here use default error configuration. Usually whenever you get any dimension length issue or any special character issue, the cube will fail. Along with that, if at all you get any duplicate records, that time also the cube process, the dimension process will fail because of the data integrity. So if you want to override that behavior, you can customize your error configuration. So either you can key convert to error, so key error action convert to unknown, or discard any particular record. And then you also processing error limit. So if at all your error limits are so and so, you can configure it, and you can ignore the duplicate keys. If at all you have a duplicate key, you can say report and continue, because presently if at all you get duplicate keys, the cube dimension process will fail. But if you want to override that, you can change these settings, right? Even key not found, so report and continue, it will go the dimension, or you can change that behavior, ignore error or report and stop. So these options, it depends on your situation, whether you want to keep the duplicate keys or keep the null records. Those scenarios, you can use this option to overwrite existed behavior. So that's about dimension key errors and the processing option. Once you choose all these options, you're good. Then click OK and click OK. So yeah, the mapping and everything done. So now let me show you. Let me connect to SSMS and show you when did we process the retail cube. So that's very important, right? And to show whether it's really processing or not. So I'm just connected to my SQL Server Management Studio. Right, so here I connect to a Molap cube, and then you can see here I choose properties. If you see here, the last processed of this retail cube is on 4th of January 2024, right? So now we go and process the our whatever the created package, right? So we're going to process that created package. So now I'm going to here execute this package from here, right click and execute package. So it's loading, right? So it started processing, and you can see all your history on the progress bar. So here you can see entire history, which other dimensions get processed, what are the queries being executed during the process, and you can see all that information here under the progress tab. And you can also see what is the queries, SQL queries that been called in the queue. And in the end, you can see what is the total elapsed time. So it took only 4 seconds to process the entire retail queue. Now let's go back to our SSMS and see whether it's processed or not. Where is that? Here. So I'll just refresh my databases, right click on retail cube and properties. Now you can see here the last updated is 14th 2024. You can see here, right? So just we got processed, that's all. That's why it's showing the last updated date is 14th of January 2024. This is how you process the Molap queue. Now move on and see how we can process the tabular queue. Now for the tabular cube also, let me create one more package, new SSIS package, and then tabular cube. Tabular cube process. Okay, so I want to save tabular cube package, and here also I drag the analysis service process task, and here again I need to build a separate connection for tabular cube. So process sync settings, click new, and here I change to connection to tabular and use the Windows integrated security. Select the retail cube TM test connection, click OK. Test is succeeded, click OK, click OK. Once it's a connection build, again it will allow you to display your tables. Now here the tabular queue, so it will show the dimension list of the tables that you want to process. In my scenario, I want to process all dimensions and everything. But if at all you have a partitions on the specific table, you can only select those partitions. But in my scenario, I don't have any partitions, so I'm selecting all the tables to process it. Click OK. Again, here also you have an option called default full data clear and defragmentation. So it will just I think, I mean, I never tried this defragmentation option, but it kind of recreating the indexes in tabular queue. So we will go with the default option now. Then let me choose that process option, and again here I want to change settings parallel. I let the server decide, and here also I don't want to change these dimension key errors. Okay, click OK, click OK. Now go to the solution explorer, right click and execute package. But before that I want to check when did this particular tabular cube got processed. Now if you see here, so it's a processed 13th, which is yesterday. The last data refresh, last updated is December 24 2023. Now let's go and process from here, execute package. So here also, yeah, it's executed successfully. Here also you can see the, I mean, here you won't see the much information because of this tables, right, that we have processed. But it's a pretty fast. It took only 2 seconds to process entire tabular cube. Now go to the SSMS and then go to here, retail cube TM, refresh, and then right click on the cube properties. Now you can see here. So it's not showing. Okay, why it's not changing anything? Because there is no data change, because we choose the default, right? So that's the reason. There is, since there are no changes in the record, it didn't process anything. So what I'll do, I'll change to processful, 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 and processful. Click OK, and then execute the package again. Execute the package. Now let's see. So this time I'm forcing to process full, right? So yeah, it's processed the data. Now you can see the queries, all the queries and select statement being executed. Now we go back to our SSMS and go to here in SSMS and open the properties of retail cube TM. So then you can see the last data refresh has happened just 14th January 2024 to 57 p.m. So this is how you can process your tabular queue. And usually these are the regular SSIS task that we use it. But if you go to, I mean, you can use some of the script tasks that you can process it by using the some of cube, what is that, a property that I'm not getting it, but there are the ADO.NET kind of connection that you can use and process your cube. That is one more option. And then so if you go to data flow, again within the data flow we'll have the two more tasks that you can use it and process the data. Let me show you them. Other transforms, but we don't use much in our project. Okay, where are those? Okay, let me find. Come on, slowly changing dimension. Okay, so where are those sources? I think they are in the control flow. Let me go back to the control flow. Other tasks. Yeah, so sorry, it's not data flow task. So they are in here. So analysis service DDL task. So this one, and there is there should be one more. Where is that? Anyways, so the DDL task is actually helped you create dynamic partitions or dropping some objects, cube dimensions or measure groups on the runtime. You can use the DDL task and then you can process it. But most of the time we use our scenario to create a partition dynamically and process the data. So maybe in the upcoming videos I will cover that, how to create partitions dynamically and process the data. But for now, just keep in mind this is the DDL task where you can perform your DDL operation within the cube. But apart from that, we use the regular one, analysis service processing task, to process your dimensions and measure groups from the both Molap cube as well as the tabular cube. So that's pretty much about using the SSIS packages to process the data. By the way, so once you build this package, you simply deploy this package to SSIS DB catalog, or you can call this package to your jobs. Either it can be SQL agent job or title job. So wherever you have the standard scheduler in your project, right? So you can use that SSIS package to process the data in scheduler manner. That's about SSIS packages. Using the SSIS packages, we process the data. Now we are moving on to the how we can use the SQL agent, SQL Server Agent, to process the both cubes. SQL Server Agent scheduler is the inbuilt tool where it helps you to process your different jobs. It's not only for cube processing the cube. You can also create another workflows based on your SQL database, calling stored procedure, commands, or whatever you can do. You can SQL Server Agent will help you to perform that operation. Now, in our scenario, we use only to process the SSIS cubes. How to make it? Let's get into the details. So first, we need to connect to the database engine. Within the database engine, so maybe I'll use SQL. Okay, Windows authentication for now. Then connect. Now I'm connecting to the SQL agent. Sorry, SQL server. Under the SQL server, my SQL agent is here, but it's a disabled. Let me enable that by clicking the start. So now it's asking me to confirm. So I confirmed. Now my SQL agent is start and running. You can just click on refresh the engine. So now SQL Server Agent is started. You can see a green button, play button. Okay. As of now, we don't have any specific jobs to process it. So now let me create how you can process entire cube from the job. Okay. So now I'm going to create a new job. I'll give a name, process full of retail cube. Under the steps, I'll create only single job. Again, I'll say process full of retail queue. Here I need to select type is my analysis service command, and SQL Server Agent service. I don't want to change anything, and the server name we need to give. So since we are processing the Molap cube, I give the local host is my server name, and here we need to use the XML code to process the cube. How do you generate the XML code? So you need to go to here, right click on retail cube, click on process. So now here there are the options so that you can choose whichever the option is works for you. You can choose that process option. Once you're done with your selection, generate the script. When you click on the script button, so it's generated the XML script. Now copy this XML script and go back to your SQL agent job, paste it here. So we are good here, and then I want to, on completion of this job, I want to quit the job reporting success, and then click OK. Now my job is created. Now let's see, the refresh that we did is at 251. Please remember that 251. So now I'm going to execute this job, start job. Oops, what happened? Okay, so there is the problem. Looks like, let me see what is the problem. Process queue, why it's failed. Job process queue. Okay, could not obtain information those until login group user. Oh, okay. It's a permission issue. What I can do, I'll create one proxy account and see that helps. So how to create the proxy account? I need to go to the database engine and go to the security, expand the credentials, new credentials. I'll click on new credential. Cube user I create, and then what I'll do, I will give my account Azure AD, and then this is my user ID that I want to execute. Why it's not happening? Let me select its group, locations, click OK. Why it's not connecting? Copy, funny, sync. Okay, Azure AD. Okay, check names. Okay, don't worry about it. It's not happening. What I'll do for my testing purpose, what I'll do, I will disconnect this, and then right. So what I can do, there are two ways that I can solve this problem. Let me go to see services.msc. That's where our services will be created, right? Now let me go back to here, and then here I want to see SQL Server Analysis Service. I change this to log on this account. So I try to use my account. So given password. Okay, click apply. Right. Okay, so yeah, my credentials applied. Now let me restart services. Yeah, so it's nothing. The error is nothing but so group failed. Okay, Windows could not start SQL Server. Okay, dependency service group failed. Okay, so still there is a problem. Now what I will do? I don't want to explore now. Maybe I'll look into later. But now I change to localhost back and start. I'll try this way. Where is my? I created one SQL account already. So let me use the SQL account, SQL admin account, and try to see whether this will help. Okay, let me create a credentials, create a new proxy account, and then cube user, and then here I select SQL admin, check names. Oh, here also it's not working. Mm, I think I don't have any specific account. Let me see how I can provide account to process the queue. Sorry guys, I tried to figure it out the issue, but I'm not able to, I mean, not figure it out in the sense I know the issue because it's not able to authenticate and process the queue. But unfortunately I'm not able to create any proxy account within my SQL agent, to process to give up that proxy account under run as. But that's how you can create XML job. Once you create it, and you can go ahead here and create a proxy account. So new credentials, then you can map your credentials here. And then once you created a proxy account, what you need to do, you need to go back to your SQL agent server. Under that, you just add your proxy here, new proxy, and give a cube user proxy account name, and then you will get whatever the credentials that you created here, right? So whatever the credential that you created, it will get listed here. So select that particular account to authenticate the cube access and run it, and click OK and click OK. That's it. Once you created the proxy account within the SQL agent, then go back to your job, process full retail queue under here. So open the step name. Under the step, change this run as from SQL Server Agent service account to your proxy account, whatever the proxy account you created, right? That will get display here, and you can select that proxy account and click OK and execute the job. So it will be executed. So in our scenario, we use the process full retail cube, right? So here we are trying to process entire cube. But similarly, if you want to process only selected dimensions, then what you need to do, you need to prepare your customized code to generate the XML script. How you can generate that customized code, I'll show you. So now in my scenario, under the retail cube, I want to process only 2 dimensions. I don't want to process all the dimension. Now what you need to do, let's say I want to process only the buyer customer and buyer geo. In that scenario, what you can do, click on the buyer dim buyer customer, right? And it will by default select the process update. When you good with process options settings, click on script. Once you created script, click on script. If you run this, it will process your dimension, right? So when your dimension get processed, I mean, this is the manually executed. This is how you will get it. That means your process is completed. Now if you want to process only these 2 dimension, then what you can do, again, next time select the dim buyer geo, make sure the process update is selected, generate a script. Now again, script is generated, and if I execute, it's get processed. Now what you can do, you can copy this script from right below from parallel and before end of the parallel, copy the script and put it here under the process of previous dimension. Now what will happen, these 2 dimensions will get processed same time. You can see here both are processed. You can see in the messages which are the things are processed and everything. But yeah, you can see here both buyer customer buyer geo got processed. Similarly, if you want to add more dimensions, again you need to add between the parallel tag between them, you need to add the remaining dimension script. Once you created your customized XML script, copy that script and go back to your SQL agent step. Then we paste it. Then we paste it under the step. That's it. So once you pasted the new XML script, click OK and execute your job. That's all. So that's how you can use the XML script to process the cube from the SQL agent job. So, but again, once again, I'm sorry for not able to show these execution results because of the limitation that I'm not able to make it in the SQL agent and within the my system. Okay, so that's about processing the cube of a Molap cube using the SQL agent. Now, even when it comes to the tabular cube, it will be the same scenario. So let me show that quickly. For tabular cube, it will generate the that JSON format, right? So now I connected to my tabular cube. Under that, I have a retail cube. So retail cube. Under that, I want to process my DIM buyer customer, and usually you click process table and click OK. So this is how we do, right? It's processed to 14 rows. Now, if you want to process through the SQL agent, once you select which are the dimension that you want to process and which is the mode that you want to process, click on script. Now it will generate the script. Now what you need to do, so you simply go to copy this script, go back to the SQL agent, the job that we created. So here you can see here the step, right? uh, Here we created for Molap cube. Now same way you need to create for your tabular cube. Let me show you. So here also process tabular cube, and then you need to select analysis service command, and then you provide your server name where your tabular cube is hosted, tabular, and provide your command. That's all. Again, run as, you can choose the proxy account which is having the highest privileges. Then you can select that run as. Under the run as, you can select that proxy account and then click OK. Once you click OK, the step will be created, and then you can execute the step. Okay, what is the warning? Okay, so on success, I want to quit the job. So reporting success, click OK, and then here, that's it. That's okay. So it's telling that the step one, after completion of step one, I selected quit job as success, but instead of that, it's expecting to choose the go to the next step. So anyway, just only warning. So I don't want to do any action here. Is this intended behavior? Yes. Close the job. That's about copying the script, XML script, and this JSON script, right? So both script you can use and process the both the Molap cube as well as the tabular cube using the SQL agent. So that's about option 2. Now we'll move on to the PowerShell. Using the PowerShell, how we are going to how you're going to process the both the Molap as well as the tabular cube. PowerShell scripting is one of the powerful scripting in Windows. It's most of you already aware of it. Whatever the Linux commands that we have, right? So 99% we use the same commands in the PowerShell scripting, and do things in the Windows. How we do the things in the Linux. So now let's go into the details how we can process the PowerShell scripting. Now let me bring the PowerShell window. So I open the PowerShell scripting window. So there will be, like, when you type in Windows Start PowerShell, so you will get option called Run ISE as Administrator. That is the one we need to choose, and you need to open that in the Run as Administrator. And then once you open it, this is how it's open. And then yeah, it's pretty much good. So since I opened through the administrator, it's open, connected to C Windows System 32. So and here you have commands. The list of the commands that we're going to use is invoke commands. So you can check on the right side whether you have invoke commands. Under that you have a process as a database, process queue, process dimension, process partition, process table. All these should be existed, then only you can process your both the Molap and as well as the tabular queue. So, but there is a catch here. So these processing the cube and dimensions, these commands won't come directly. You need to install some plugins called SQL Modular So that is the one of the plugin that you need to install. And once you install that, then it will these invoke commands will start displaying. Let me show you how those commands that we can use it. There are a couple of corner cases that you need to understand before we launch any command. So right. So at any point, okay, first you need to do what you need to do. You need to check whether you have the SQL modular got installed or not. So usually it won't install by default. What you can do, so you can start typing the module. Okay, so you can see the intelligence is automatically coming up. So you don't need to worry about it. So start typing get dash module, and then you can type your SQL Server module and check whether it's available or not. Okay, so I'll say list available, then type. So in my scenario, the module is already available, so I installed it. In case if you want to install that module, you need to use the command called install module. So you'll get it, install module, press tab, and then name of the module that you need to provide. In our scenario, it will be SQL Server, and then you need to use this parameter. So all allow clubber. So that means whatever the existed version or whatever the unused version is installed and it is not getting loaded to your PowerShell, that will be updated with new version. So by executing this command, what will happen? So your SQL Server modular will get installed into your PowerShell, right? So post that, so there you need to also find out the path for SQLPS. So SQL PowerShell, that is the one you need to find the location of that particular module. Okay. So, but again, SQLPS, you need to find once you install the SQL Server module. So first thing is you need to install the SQL Server module by executing this command. Post that, what you can do simply get module, and then here you can type list available this time. So what it will do, it will get list of modules that are installed under the PowerShell. Now, once you get that list under that, we'll see SQL PS. I have my SQL PS is already installed in my local. I'm going to use the 16th version. That is my latest version. So what we need to do, we need to change our directory, right, to this SQL PS module location. Now it's pointed to C/Windows 32, right? We need to change that to this particular SQL PS location. Okay, to do that, I write a command called change directory cd, paste my location. So since I have a gaps in my folder, I'll use the single quote to escape those gaps. Right. So now I changed my directory changed to wherever that PS, right, SQL PS hosted, right, that folder, it's pointed. Now, so I think I'm pretty good. So now in the next step, we can start connecting to the cube and process the cube. All right. Yeah. So again, before you start putting any invoke command or anything, just make sure on the right side you have the invoke commands get installed, like process as a database, process cube, process dimension, process partition, table. All these things should be there. Then only you can process the cube. Now, so we're good with changing the path. Now what I'll do, I'll create a one variable where it will point to the instance name. Okay, so I'll give my instance name is, first we'll process the Molap cube, then later we process the tabular model. So for that reason, I first give the instance name equals to localhost where my Molap cube is hosted. Click OK. So now the next command that we can use, so we need to start executing the one of the dimension. Maybe we'll figure it out, the dimension. Let me connect to the SSMS and maybe we'll choose one dimension from our retail cube. This is our Molap cube, and here I can select this particular dimension. Maybe this time we'll use the product dimension. That's better. Properties. So this one is get processed on 14th. Yeah, today only at 250, 251. Now what I'll do here. Right. So I'll copy that dim product. Now I go back to my PowerShell scripting, and here what I'll do, I'll start typing the invoke command, invoke, and process dimension, right? And then so we need to give name of that particular dimension, which is my dim product. And then so next thing we need to give is our server name. The parameter server will be my instance that I created here, so I'll give that instance name. And then next one is the database is my parameter. Database is nothing but our cube solution which we deployed, right? So this will be our database name. Retail cube is our database name. Right, let me close this. Okay, let me copy this name. That's better, just to avoid the typo errors. I will paste it. So given the database name, the last option, last parameter, okay, we need to put it in double quotes. Last parameter is refresh type. Refresh type, I want to process. Okay, I'll say full. Okay, let's see what will happen. That's it. Click OK. So it's saying that invoke process dimension, the invoke process command was found in the module SQL Server, but the module could not load it for information run. Okay. So there is a security concern. It's not allowing me to. The command existed, but due to the security reason, it's not allowing me to process the data. So to overcome this problem, what you can do, we can set some changing the environment option, but usually I don't recommend, but careful. So whenever changing this execution policy, because the PowerShell is the very powerful scripting language. Okay, so that's the reason you need to be careful. Now what I'll do, so I will paste this command, set execution policy. Execution policy is remote signed in. I'm just telling the PowerShell that for current user, please allow me to execute the these invoke scripts by choosing these two parameters. Execution policy is remote signed and the scope is current user. Now once I execute this command, it will give a warning. It's really asking me to whether you want to change the policy, because there is a potential risk, right? So changing the, you can read here, changing the execution policy might expose you to security risks, and describe the about execution policies and all. It's giving the link to go through it. But anyway, after I complete this video, I will roll back my settings. For now, I'm overwriting my policies. Click on S to all. So now that's it. So the policy execution, set it to unrestricted. Now I go back and execute my command again. Now this time, so what is the problem now? Parameter set cannot be resolved using the specified parameter. So dim product, right? So ambiguous parameter. Okay, this time is the parameter issue. Right, what is the parameter issue? So invoke process dimension, process type. I think I need to use instead of process full, what I can do, I can use the process update. No, I think refresh type is more related to the tabular queue. Instead of that, I should use the process type, I guess. Sorry for that. Yeah, process type. That's right. I use the tabular cube command. I use half command from a Molap cube and half command from the tabular cube. That's the reason it's failed. Sorry for that. Now I'm using the right thing. So here I use this and run. That's it. So the cube, it's got processed this dimension. Now let's go back and see whether the dimension is processed or not. I just refresh my retail cube, right click, dim product and properties. See, it's changed. 3:36 is the current time now. It's got processed, right? So this is how you can process it. In fact, if you want to process, entire specific dimension and everything, you can process in this way. And in case if you want to process entire database, what you can do, so we can change this parameter to database and give a retail cube, right? And the server name will be the same. Let me delete here. Process type, I'll choose process full. Oh, okay. So we need to. I still choose the process dimension, right? That's the reason it's asking the parameters. So now for now, I can give dim product. Dim product. Okay. So, but I want to process the full cube. What I can do, mm, what I need to use here instead of process dimension, I need to use the process cube. That is the option I need to use. Let me change that. Right. Okay. So process cube. I changed it to process cube, and then here I need to. Okay, I still need to give a name. Name equals to POC. That is our cube name. That's it. So now it's processed completed. Entire cube is processed under the retail cube. Now you can see here, if I refresh this and go to the properties, you can see 338, it's refreshed, right? So this is how you can process your Molap cube, right? So now moving on, what I'll do, let me clear the, okay, so let me come to here. Now this time we're going to start using the processing of tabular cube. How we're going to process the cube, tabular cube, we'll discuss, okay? Now here to process the cube, let me change the instance name. Instance name equals to local host tabular, change to tabular cube instance. Now we are going to use the commands. Now this time what we can do, so invoke, right, let me, instead of doing here, you can, from right side you have a process table, right? So let me select this invoke option. Insert command is inserted, and then here I need to give table name. You can give database name also, so not a problem. Table name I can give. For table name, let me search what is the table name that I have it here. So under the retail cube I can give dim product again. So I can refresh here, dim product. Let me show you that last refresh is happened at 257. I'm going to give a dim product, and then I need to give my server name. Server is my instance name that I created. Good. And the database name that I need to give is retail cube underscore tm, right? And then process type, I want to use the refresh type equals to full, right? So yeah, in fact you have all this option. That's it. So my dimension got processed again. So we have many options here, so let me show you. So by selecting this option like add, automatic, calculate, clear values, and data only, again it will process only data. Defragment is nothing but indexes, and full process, whichever the option you want to choose, you can choose that, and then you can execute. So now this is how you can process your tabular cube. So that's, I think, yeah, we are good how we can process the PowerShell command. So now, what are the commands that we created and executed here, right? So these commands directly, they are authenticating access by using the current running user, because that's the reason we didn't provide any, value. But when you go to the Azure side, what will happen? So we need to use one specific account to run the books, right? So let's say you have any Azure cloud platform, that's where you want to process any cube, then you need to use the one of the account which will help you to process your, help to execute the runbooks, right? In the previous session we talked about SQL agent, right? There is a proxy account required to execute the XML script or JSON script, right? Same way in Azure platform we will have one dedicated account. That account will actually help you to run the runbook by using this PowerShell scripting. So while you map that account to the PowerShell scripting, the PowerShell is automatically authenticate the access and start processing the data, right? So I'll quickly provide the snapshot how the runbooks are there in the Azure Automation platform. by using this PowerShell scripting, right? So, but that's about PowerShell scripting. Using the PowerShell scripting, we execute, I mean, we process both the Molap and Tabular Cube. So let's move on to the quick glance on Azure Automation Runbook. By the way, before we going to talk about Azure Automation, so previously we enabled the settings, right? So let me go back and show you. Where is that? Right. Okay. Ah, right. So when we get this particular error, so we actually executed this execution policy script, and bypassed the policy. Right now, we completed execution of processing the cube. Right now, I want to roll back those settings. Okay, because I don't want to leave that. So to roll back that restrictions again, to bring back to the execution policy to the strict mode, so you need to execute this command: set execution policy. Execution policy parameter is restricted. Scope is current user. Now we execute this again. It will ask you a warning. Click yes to all. That's it. So now my policy is changed back to the restricted mode. Now what will happen when I restart my laptop? Again it will go back to the restricted mode. Okay, so don't forget to set it back as a restricted mode, because it's a potential risk to your laptop, where the nowadays a lot of things are happening through the hacking, right? So careful with that. So keep in this mind as soon as you complete your queue process step execution. So make sure that these execution policies set to restricted. Usually you can do these changes in dev and test server, but don't do it in the production. If you do it in production, that means you're compromising with your data, right? So keep in that mind. Now move on to the Azure Automation. Here is the UI of the Azure. If you look at this screenshot, when you log into the portal.azure.com, so if you're already having the access to your organization Azure account, then you will be getting this homepage. Under that, you will see automation accounts, SQL databases, analysis service, virtual machine, whatever the Azure services, right? That being subscribed, so you will get it here. Under that, so you will have a access to resources. One is the list of the runbooks that you scheduled it, or on behalf of your name it's scheduled, you will get listed here. And also there will be one account, the automation account. So in our scenario, we have the one automation account to process our analysis service queue, and we have a one runbook where we processing our entire tabular queue. Within that runbook, we have embedded all the in-work process PowerShell scripting to process entire individual tables, as well as the partitions and measure group. So when I click on this first one, full process runbook, it will get open this second one. So this is how the window will get open. So edit PowerShell runbook. Under that, I given the server name. Where is my Azure analysis server name? Under that, we have a credentials where we use the parameter called my credentials. Under that, I'm just runtime. I'm getting the get automation PS credentials. Okay, and the variable name we given like portal service @ our organization.com. So this is the email ID that we use to process our all runbooks. So the same thing I mapped into my runbook document in the starting. And after that, I start using my PowerShell scripting. In my scenario, I'm using the invoke process table and giving the table name. Table name is nothing but your tabular cube dimension name and your database name. Where is your tabular cube model name and the server, and then refresh type. So if you want to process like a refresh full, then you can do the refresh full. Then you need to embed it your account. So which is the account that you're going to use it and connect to the Azure AS, right? That account you need to map it. In my scenario, I already passed that to my credential, right? So the same variable I just mapped under the credentials. So this is how we mapped it. Now moving on, the once we schedule, I mean once we provided all the PowerShell scripting here, then save the document, then you will come to like this. Okay, then here you will have many options, like you can link the schedule, whatever the runbook that you worked, right? So you can click on link to schedule, so you can schedule the job whenever you want to run. So in our scenario, we schedule for every day once. So by using the specific resource group, we have a standard resource group where it will use the standard Azure resources and execute. And the account also, we use the account, which is our corporate account, and the rest of the information, that's it. So once we link the schedule. Using that information, it's automatically processed on schedule way. If at all you want to process the runbook in manually, you can click on start, so it will process your runbook on ad hoc based. So this is how the runbook that we created, right? So that's how we use the Azure Automation to process our tabular cube. Again, Azure Automation is only helpful for tabular cube because Molap cube is not in Azure cloud. It's still in the on-premises platform, whereas the Azure AS, that is the tabular cube, is available in the both cloud as well as in the on-premises. That's about these four ways to process your Molap cube as well as the tabular cube. So let me know in case, I know especially when you have doubts on third and fourth options, please feel free to message me. So I'm glad to help you. That's about this video, and I'll see you in the next video with a different topic. Thank you.